What is going on YouTube? Floopy Donkey here, and in this video I am going to show you some sliders that you can implement into your franchise mode for Madden that will completely fix, or let's hope, your Madden playthroughs. Let's jump right into it. Alright everybody, so here we've got our player skill sliders, and I have these sliders set on all Madden. You can use all Madden or all pro with these sliders. I've found out that both work just as well, but for a little added bonus, little harder difficulty, of course you want to use all Madden, and that's what I run. I want to make this Madden franchise for me an experience as hard as possible and make it as lifelike as the real NFL. We have to remember, sometimes we get caught up in that, oh, that wouldn't happen in the NFL, that's not realistic. But let's remember that the NFL is the NFL because of its parity, because crazy things happen all the time. Taking, for instance, what just happened this past weekend with Kyler Murray hitting DeAndre Hopkins over 3 people for a Hail Mary. You have crazy things like DeAndre Swift dropping a pass wide open in the end zone that cost the Detroit Lions the ball. And then there is parity. That's what makes it so fun. But the first thing we've got, player skills, is quarterback accuracy. I think we need to leave that just as it is. I found out that when you have rookie quarterbacks or those mid-level to low-tiered quarterbacks, that they will miss open passes from time to time. That's what we want to see. Pass blocking, I dropped it down just by 2. Nothing really to hit home there about. Just increase that pass rush, make you have to make decisions a lot quicker. Wide receiver catching. Now, you can increase this just a little bit. I have found that I think the players, wide receivers, do drop the ball more often than not, especially when you're not user controlling it. So I have bumped it up a little bit on that in some franchises, but 50 seems to be kind of a sweet spot. And you can move that up or leave it at 50 depending on what you want to do. Run blocking, I think running is very, very easy in this Madden, regardless of your offensive line play. I did not even draft offensive linemen in one franchise and had terrible, I'm talking about 69, 70 overall linemen, and I was still able to run for around 1,500 yards. So I think decreasing that makes it a little bit more realistic. Nothing to really hit home with the fumbles and pass defense reaction time. I do think you need to increase the pass defensive reaction time to help against that CPU accuracy, because we all know the computer hits those passes on all Madden like clockwork. Interceptions, we did drop those down a little bit just because I think, you see defensive backs dropping interceptions a lot. There's a reason why they're a defensive back, because they weren't good enough to be a wide receiver. Pass coverage, we increased that a little bit to keep the players tighter on the wide receivers, and that is also another thing you can bump up a little bit if you would like, and play around that. I would say around 55, 56. Once you get into that 60 range, though, it's a little unrealistic, but it does help out with a lot of those quick slants that the CPU likes to dish out. Tackling, we're leaving the same. All right, CPU skills, we're going to decrease that quarterback accuracy to 43 because of, just as I mentioned before, the quarterback on all Madden, controlled by the CPU, they don't miss. So what we do to counter that is decrease their accuracy a little bit. We've also decreased their wide receiver catching, which helps out a ton. And then back into the player skill, we increased our pass defensive reaction time and pass coverage, and that hones it in a little bit. Now, if there's one thing that, like I said, you can increase a little bit, don't increase the CPU skill here. If you feel like the quarterback on the computer side is throwing way too many passes, completing way too many passes, increase your pass coverage and your reaction time. The cool thing about sliders in Madden is that you can tailor them to your play style. So for instance, for me, I do not control any other player except the player I start with. So say on defense, if I start middle linebacker, that's who I stay with the entirety of the play. I want this to be realistic, and I want the player ratings to come out and shine. I like to see a mid-tier safety jump up and make an interception. I think that's really cool to see, because you're pulling for the guy. He's not a top tier safety. Of course, if I switch to that. All right, so now we're going to interceptions. 25, we've decreased this a lot, because if you miss a pass as a player and it's anywhere near a defender, it's getting picked off again. I think that's a little unrealistic. As I mentioned before, DBs drop a lot of passes in the NFL. We're going to keep that at 25. And then tackling, we just decreased it just a little bit. I like to see especially in today's league with this season, with COVID, everything that's happened, we're seeing a lot of broken tackles. People aren't shoring up tackles as much, so we like to see them bounce off of you. And of course, tackling for us as the player, that can be increased a lot. I have seen a lot of tackles being broken even when I hit stick guys or even do conservative tackles. So if you want to increase tackling for the player, you can do that, but I think keep dropping that down just a little bit for the CPU helps out a lot. Nothing special for special teams. I'll just let you look at those. I did decrease the punt accuracy, and I've actually had a lot of success with the field goal accuracy. I've had some missed kicks inside 50 yards with the computer. That was awesome to see. You really don't see that a lot in Madden. Most of the time the computer makes the kick 50 yards and under. It's whenever they get above 50 yards and you decrease the accuracy that they just shank balls left and right. Injuries, we decrease injuries just a bit. Fatigue, we increase that. The minimum player speed threshold, I think, is perfect. When you got a guy that's faster and you throw him the deep ball, he tracks it down and separates. I like seeing that. Speed kills in the NFL. You see it all the time. Tyreek Hill, Robbie Anderson for the Panthers. The list goes on and on. Those are just two that popped up in my mind. But speed, deep ball, you see that all the time. It kills. Offsides, we increase the penalties. You see a lot of penalties in the NFL. Not so much this season, though, because they decreased their calls. They only make calls when they're clear and obvious. Defensive pass interference, we've left. I haven't been seeing a lot of that in Madden, and I think you could probably bump that up to a 55. So do that. I think you won't have any issues with that, but I've left mine at 50, but I have not been seeing a lot of defensive pass interference calls. So try bumping it up and see if you get more. I just know when I've bumped mine up, it tends to be, defensive pass interference almost every contested ball. So I just bumped it back down to 50, and I've left it at that. Holding, false starts, offsides, you see those respectively. And guys, that's it. I'm going to back out of here and show you what my sliders are for XP. I think these are really great. One of the bad things about the Madden this year is that when you get into those fantasy drafts, year 2, year 3, you don't see a lot of superstar traits or development traits out of your drafted players, especially your offensive linemen. So I think increasing those help with developing them, because there's really not a lot you can do. If you draft an offensive tackle 1 overall and he has a normal development trait, you don't get the opportunity for him to become a superstar or star development trait. He's stuck. So what I've done to counter that is increase his XP percentage that he gains. That way, at least they're developing at a faster rate. But I'm going to just scroll through these so you all can see them. Let me know down in the comments what you think of these sliders. I'm interested in seeing your take on them and what you have done to make Madden a little bit more playable. And guys, if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe down below. I also do Let's Plays of Madden franchise. I'm currently doing the Panthers, the Carolina Panthers, but also do rebuilds as well. So come check out my videos. I'll leave a link of them here at the end screen, and I will catch you all on the next one. Hope you enjoy. Let me know if they work out. Later.